Introduction to Super Merchant of Wandering Earth. Chinese Chu Ning discovered that he could freely travel through the world of Wandering Earth and also included a storage space. Without hesitation, he started smuggling between the two worlds. Cheap canned goods, fruits, vegetables, and grains on Earth have become popular on the wandering planet. The precious metals and technological products that were not valued by the wandering Earth allowed Chu Ning to establish a huge commercial empire in the real world. The emergence of Chu Ning changed the fate and pattern of two worlds. Chapter 1. Crossing the Wandering Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Ning couldn't imagine that she had just watched a Chinese science fiction blockbuster called Wandering Earth, and had actually traveled to the world of Wandering Earth that night. As a Southeast Asian Chinese, Chu Ning is very passionate about his country's culture, and he enjoys Chinese novels, music, movies, and more. Well, the Wandering Earth he just painted in Southeast Asia, he immediately went to buy tickets to support it. Who knew, such a strange thing happened? Crossing over. He is not unfamiliar with the word time travel. After all, he often reads Chinese novels, which is a popular element. A protagonist who does not travel through time is not a good protagonist. At this moment, the location where he crossed was the third underground city in the capital of our country. Isn't this the dungeon shelter where the protagonist is located? Fortunately, Chu Ning can speak Mandarin, so there is no problem with communication. He quickly obtained the information he wanted to know. He traveled 3 years before Earth was captured by Jupiter. 3 years. How to live in this environment for 3 years is the first thing Chu Ning needs to consider. As for the collision between Jupiter and Earth in 3 years, is that the issue he needs to consider. He is a newcomer, poor and destitute, with nothing and seemingly no special skills. To be honest, instead of considering how to avoid that catastrophic disaster in 3 years, it's better to think about what to eat for the next meal. At this moment, a line of numbers appeared on his wrist, as if a countdown, leaving only 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds. That is to say, he was stunned for 10 seconds just now. It was originally the countdown to a day. What is this? Chu Ning doesn't understand. Does it have an instruction manual? This is a bit of a jerk. Moreover, he also noticed that only he seemed to be able to see this line of numbers. Without a doubt. This is the golden finger he crossed over. However, he hasn't figured out how to use it yet, so he can only ponder it slowly. Chu Ning tried to calm herself down. It's okay. It's okay. As long as there is a golden finger, survival should be no problem, and even longer-term considerations can be considered. As for the original world, he actually didn't have much concern. After all, his family was gone, and there were not many relatives. The only regret is that the deposit has not been fully used up and it's a bit of a loss. Chu Ning found a corner that didn't attract much attention and waited quietly for the countdown to end, watching what might happen. In fact, as a black man in a shelter, he doesn't have much to do and can't even run around. He may be caught and interrogated. Finally, he endured until the last second. Suddenly, her eyes turned black and lit up again. Chu Ning found herself leaving the wandering Earth and returning to her original world. And the numbers on the wrist also begin to reset, which is also the countdown to the day. At the same time, Chu Ning also saw that there was actually a small space on her wrist, only the size of a wardrobe, which could hold things inside. Upon discovering this, Chu Ning thought to herself. These golden fingers are meant to travel back and forth between the wandering Earth and the real world, along with a space for storing things, and the countdown on top is the cooldown time. In that case, can we do some business in two worlds? I just don't know if that space will be upgraded and enlarged in the future. After all, it's only the size of a wardrobe, and the items I bring over are very limited. Business is possible. In this world, food and the like are cheap goods, but when it comes to wandering Earth, it's different. In the wandering Earth, some technological products may only be daily necessities, and it is difficult to say if they are brought into their world. In short, this business seems to have a bright future and can be done. Chu Ning has determined her future development path, and while there is still time, she quickly goes shopping. Chu Ning has a considerable amount of savings on hand, which can be considered as accumulated by many generations of his family. At least in this poor small country in Southeast Asia, he is considered a millionaire, not worried about food or clothing. When I was young, I heard my own father say that his family fled here from the end of the Ming dynasty, and the family once stood out and acted recklessly here. But later on, Portugal came and drove his family back to before liberation, and from then on, the family declined. In his generation, the population is even rarer, and almost the incense has been cut off. Chu Ning has already planned to trade various canned goods, especially canned meat. In the world of Wandering Earth, meat is not necessarily non-existent, but it is definitely a luxury item, and dried earthworms are the main source of protein for everyone. Chu Ning still remembers that in the movie, the protagonist Lu Qi and his sister Duo will encounter a new product called durian-flavored earthworm dried, in the underground city. When his grandfather Han Xiang gave gifts to officials, he also gave aged earthworm dried. In fact, earthworms are a very nutritious food. Not only is it rich in all essential amino acids, but it also contains 54.6.59.4% high-quality protein. In addition, earthworms contain a large amount of vitamins, minerals, and trace elements, making them a high-quality source of calcium and iron. Of course, the nutritional richness of earthworms is not the reason why humans in dungeons choose to eat them. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net. The reason for using earthworms as food in the dungeon is actually that in the dungeon setting of Wandering Earth, garbage and sewage treatment are always a difficult problem to solve. Introducing earthworms can not only solve household waste, but also provide a source of protein. Killing two birds with one stone is simply perfect. The appearance of this canned meat makes ordinary people drool even when they see it. After purchasing canned pork, beef, and lamb, Chu Ning carefully wiped off the production date on the top to prevent it from being exposed. These canned goods are still produced in China. There's no way, the small country he's in is too poor, with extremely backward industries, even light industries like canning are rare. About 4 cubic meters of space, there are quite a few canned goods. If there is still a countdown to one day after arriving there, Chu Ning cannot even guarantee that she can sell everything. After all, when we get there, we can't just shout like setting up a street stall, can we? If he dares to do so, he will definitely cause a certain sensation in the first place. It is not a problem for canned goods to be sold out, but there is also a high chance that he will be controlled by others. Therefore, for the time being, one can only engage in indecent development. There is still time, he prepares various budgets. In the short term, he will not lack funds in this world, but as he buys more things in the future, his savings will still be spent. So, making money and accumulating capital in the original world is equally important for Chu Ning. Even to a certain extent, he may have to start a company. Only in this way can he save time in this world. What do you need? If he goes on, someone will help him purchase it back. Plan well and the countdown is almost zero. Returning to the world of Wandering Earth again, Chu Ning felt a little excited and tried to calm down, starting to search for customers. Chapter 2. First Employee. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Ning was just about to take action when she saw a farce ahead, a middle-aged man with a limp leg being violently beaten by several people. The man with a limp leg was beaten a bit badly, but he still held a package tightly in his arms. The cripple who dares to steal the earthworm from our store is thinking his life is too long. One of the men with long hair was beating and cursing. He squatted down and forcefully snatched away the package of earthworms that the crippled man was carrying in his arms. Please, my family is starving to death. I can work for you and do anything, the lame man pleaded. However, this did not receive any mercy. In today's world, everyone is pitiful, not just you. By contrast, although you are limping, at least you are still in the dungeon and have a place to rest. The people who wander on the ground are the most pitiful. Our store needs workers, a queue of able-bodied people, and we need to find you a cripple. The long-haired man tugged away the earthworm and couldn't help but kick the other person to vent his anger. Although the world is not very beautiful, there are still laws in place. A group of long-haired men dare not kill anyone. After venting their anger, they take the person away, leaving the cripple holding his stomach and crying bitterly. Yes. The pain on the body is nothing, what truly breaks down is the lack of food. Chen Ziyuan was originally a worker digging stones on the ground. Workers like him are basically the lowest level people. A few years ago, he finally became a family and had a daughter. But unfortunately, one after another, his wife Wang Lan fell ill and couldn't do heavy work, and the pressure of life suddenly fell on him. In order to keep his wife and daughter alive, he worked even harder. Not long ago, in an accident, his right leg was hit by a stone and his life was saved. However, his right leg was missing and he lost his job digging stones. At present, their family can only apply for the minimum guarantee and barely survive on that minimum guarantee. However, with that minimum guarantee, their family of 3 still couldn't survive. Yesterday, there was no food left at all. In order to feed his wife and daughter, Chen Ziyuan had to take a risk and steal a bag of dried earthworms from a certain store. So there was a scene that Chu Ning saw. A big man cried so bitterly that he felt a little sad and could not bear it. Chu Ning walked over and said to him, "Brother, being alive is the greatest luck. Don't cry. Here you are, hurry back." As he spoke, he secretly stuffed 2 cans of meat into him. Chen Ziyuan was taken aback when he saw the can. He stopped crying and suddenly stuffed the can into his clothes. He then looked up at Chu Ning and said, "My benefactor, wait a moment. May I ask for your name? I don't want your food for nothing. Is there anything I can do?" He's not stupid, the person who can take out canned meat is definitely not simple. Finally encountering someone who has empathy and doesn't rush to hold on to their thighs. "My wife and daughter are still starving at home." Chu Ning stopped and frowned before asking, "Are you familiar with this underground city?" "Forget it, get up first and take me to your house." He thought that having a familiar person leading the way would be much more convenient for handling matters. Sometimes, he doesn't even need to personally intervene. "Familiar, I am familiar with all the places here. I have been living here for more than 10 years. Please follow me, benefactor." Chen Ziyuan ignored the pain on his body and quickly got up, leading the way ahead. "Don't call me benefactor, it's just a simple matter. My surname is Chu, so you can call me Mr. Chu or Mr. Chu. Chen Ziyuan immediately called out to Boss Chu, then introduced himself. After a few words, he began to say thank you. He lives in a very small space with only one container, inside which there is a double-decker bed and a lot of messy things piled up. A pale-faced woman lay on the bed, and in front of the table sat a little girl, 6 or 7 years old, with ponytails tied in her hair, a bit thin and frail, doing her homework attentively. Lying in bed, Wang Lan saw her husband bringing a man home and quickly struggled to get up, wanting to bring a glass of water to the guest. She looked at her husband as if he had been beaten before, but now that the guests are present, it's difficult for her to ask further questions. "Boss Chu, this is my wife Wang Lan. She is my daughter Yaya, who is in 1st grade. Yaya, call uncle quickly." Although the little girl had a disheveled expression on her face, her eyes were bright and clear. She obediently greeted her, "Hello uncle." "Okay. I'm not even married yet, is that my uncle?" Chu Ning complained roast. Yaya's handwriting is good." After speaking, Chu Ning took out a piece of tin foil wrapped chocolate from her pocket and handed it to her. Here. This is chocolate, you can eat it. Uncle rewards you, study hard. Upon hearing that it was edible, Wan Lon was also stunned for a moment. Now, what is precious to their family? Undoubtedly, it is something that can be eaten. Thank you, uncle. Chen Ziyuan immediately reminded his maid. Upon hearing something to eat, Yaya immediately grabbed it with both hands and said, "Thank you, uncle." She was also hungry, so she immediately peeled off one and took a bite in her mouth. It was sweet and delicious. The little girl enjoyed the taste and her eyes narrowed. She felt that this was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. The rest was carefully hidden in the drawer, fortunately secretly scrutinizing the mysterious uncle. After Chen Ziyuan finished speaking, he took out the 2 cans of meat and said to his wife, "Wife, these are the cans that Boss Chu gave to our house." Wan Lon was completely stunned. She almost forgot what the taste of canned meat was. The person who can come up with this kind of thing can only be said to be the boss. She quickly thanked me. "Sister-in-law, you're welcome. Old Chen is working with me for the time being, so let's take it as a day's salary. I've just arrived at this shelter and I'm very unfamiliar with it. Can old Chen give me some help?" Chu Ning smiled. Seeing her husband finally find something to do, Wan Lon was both happy and grateful. "How many bags can I exchange this canned meat for dried earthworms? Can you satisfy their family's meals for several days now?" "Yes. These 2 precious canned meat cans are too luxurious for her to eat on her own." Chen Ziyuan, however, caught the key point. This boss has just arrived in their underground city and wants to settle down here. So, the first issue to be solved should be where to live, right? Although the space in the dungeon is limited, the people who came in initially were all drawn lots. However, until now, after years of expansion, the space in the underground city is actually abundant. Therefore, as long as you have valuable property, it is not difficult to find a residence. "Boss, haven't you found a place to live yet? What kind of place do you want? I'll go and inquire." Chen Ziyuan said very humbly, trying to demonstrate his value as a presence. Safety is the most important thing. Additionally, it should be spacious, at least 10 times larger than what you have here. In the future, Chu Ning plans to use it for warehouses and the like, and places that are too small are definitely not suitable. "Okay, I'll go ask you a question now." Chen Ziyuan had just finished speaking when a rumbling voice came from his stomach. The room suddenly fell into an awkward atmosphere. Chu Ning smiled and said, "You guys should eat first. You're not in a hurry either." "Okay, then I'll go get some earthworms to dry." Chen Ziyuan took a can and was about to walk outside. Chu Ning shook her head and said, "What's for it? Let's eat. Don't worry, you can help me with my work seriously and won't make you hungry. Hurry up and eat, I have something else for you to do later." Speaking, he lifted his bag, unzipped it, took out 10 cans of canned food from inside, and stacked them on the table. Chen Ziyuan and his wife were stunned. "Is that big bag all canned meat?" At the same time, after listening to Chu Ning's words, the 2 of them almost shed tears, and Chen Ziyuan told himself in his heart that he would be the person of Boss Chu in the future. New book upload, seeking collection and recommendation tickets. Chapter 3. Collaboration with Brother One. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After eating a little and filling his stomach, Chen Ziyuan immediately set off with Chu Ning. At home, my wife and daughter are still savoring the taste of canned meat. Delicious. In fact, Chu Ning thought to herself, the house is not the most important thing, the most important thing is to solve identity problems. She always wears the identity of a black man and is a bit worried. "Old Chen, is there a way to establish a legitimate identity? My previous identity cannot be used, and I won't reveal the specific reason to you," Chu Ning said to Chen Ziyuan. Chen Ziyuan was stunned for a moment, then didn't think much about anything else, feeling that knowing too much wouldn't benefit him either. In fact, he had also heard of such things before. Some people who struggled to survive outside tried to find ways to enter the underground city to live. So, they definitely have to solve the identity issue first. So, the underground city began to engage in identity forgery. Coincidentally, Chen Ziyuan heard that there was a place where he could forge signs that even required entering and exiting the dungeon, and he could evade inspection. It was very impressive. Yes, let's go find our first brother. I heard he is a master in this field, Chen Ziyuan quickly informed. Okay. Then go find that guy first. Chu Ning thought to herself, isn't this first brother the one who opens a mahjong parlor in the movie? As expected, Chen Ziyuan and Chu Ning turned left and right, and finally arrived at a storefront where they played games, mahjong, and other games. There were also some thugs inside, but they didn't seem to be kind-hearted. Chen Ziyuan looked a bit humble and said, let's find a brother. Could you please inform us? A guy with a face full of flesh twisted his neck twice, making a clicking sound, and asked, why are you looking for brother one? Chu Ning remained silent. Answering such a small character would lower his demeanor, so let Chen Ziyuan handle it. I asked a brother to help me enter the house. My boss has just arrived in the dungeon and needs an identity here. Chen Ziyuan immediately explained his intention. The guy with a face full of flesh looked at Chen Ziyuan and the other person for a while, especially when he saw the bag carried by Chu Ning. It showed that he came with sincerity. He just pouted inwardly and said, that's the first brother. Go in. Speak well. It has to be said that this guy is quite good at enjoying himself, playing games, eating, and having a beautiful girl serving him. In this era, being able to live like him is really something we can tolerate. It's just that the game I'm playing is a bit eye-catching, and it's actually an outdated version of Contra. Chu Ning unexpectedly saw an acquaintance, to be precise, an acquaintance from the movie, who was one of the main characters, Lu Qi. At this time, Lu Qi should be working at a certain car repair unit, right? And it's the kind that just started working. The elder brother said, as long as you can get me what I want, there will be no problem entering or exiting the dungeon in the future. Oh. First brother, thank you so much, said Lu Qi very kindly. Chu Ning was a bit surprised. Your kid started getting in touch with this guy so early. You've been planning too long to go out of the dungeon, haven't you? If I remember correctly, this kid only left the dungeon for the first time in 3 years and went to the outside world. Chen Ziyuan walked up and said with a smile, first brother, let me introduce you to my boss Chu Ning. He has something he wants you to help with. Boss. Gu just raised his head and glanced at Chu Ning. Speak up. Do you understand everything and the rules? He looked at Chu Ning's expression, and everyone who came to him was asking for help. Basically, they all had a flattering expression. People like Chu Ning, who were neither humble nor arrogant, were really rare like giant pandas. I understand, I'm sure I know your rules, brother. My boss just arrived in our dungeon and needs a legal identity. Chu Ning interrupted Chen Ziyuan's words and smiled at the first brother, saying, first brother, I heard that the black market in this underground city is basically under your control. This time, obtaining a legal residency status is only secondary, and the most important thing is to cooperate with first brother and do some business. On his way here, he thought that collaborating with this black market might be a good choice, as it would be the quickest way to sell canned goods. And the trouble brought by canned food can also be borne by this elder brother first. As for worrying that my first brother will eat black. As long as this person's brain is not damaged, they will not cut off their long-term supply of goods for the sake of a small amount of property in front of them. Doing business. Interesting, interesting. This is the first time that Brother E has encountered such a thing. Even Lu Qi, who had not left yet, was a bit curious about what business this boss wanted to do with his first brother. Yaij put down the game he was playing in his hand, stood up, and carefully looked at Chu Ning for a while. He couldn't help but ask, "Why do you do business with me?" Chu Ning placed the bag she was carrying heavily on the table, unzipped it, and revealed the can inside. "Just rely on it." At this moment, whether it was the first brother, the two horses beside him, or Lu Qi beside him, their eyes were about to fall out. Canned meat. This thing is too rare, you know. After the Earth stopped rotating, this kind of thing was not produced. For so many years, canned meat has been consumed almost as much and has become a delicacy that only the privileged can taste. Brother. It's easy to say who you are. I'll personally help you with reading at www.uukangshu.net. It's free and absolutely impossible to find any problems. It's just this canned meat. How much do you have left? I'll take it all. After speaking, Gu roared at the two young horses beside him, "You have no vision. Why don't you go out and bring something to drink for Boss Chu?" The two paparazzi looked away from the can with reluctance and quickly went to do something. Lu Qi beside him couldn't help but lick his lips. To be honest, he had eaten canned meat when he was very young. His sister Duo, who had just been born, came to the dungeon to live and never touched such a good thing. If only I could get a can and give it back to Duo, that would be great. Come, Boss Chu, sit here. Gu personally brought a chair for Chu Ning. Chu Ning is not polite either. He knows that as long as he controls this precious resource channel, this elder brother will definitely make good friends. Gu picked up a can and found that it had no production date. He was taken aback and asked, "It hasn't expired, has it?" Some canned foods can be preserved for a long time, such as certain military canned foods, which can be eaten even after being stored for decades. Brother, why don't you open a can and inspect the goods? It's okay. Chu Ning smiled. Without saying a word, Yaij opened a can and a faint aroma of meat lingered. He picked out a piece and slowly chewed it in his mouth, enjoying it. Lu Qi, standing beside him, swallowed hard. Unconsciously, he had already finished that can. After sucking away his fingers stained with meat juice, Gu said to Chu Ning, who was sitting calmly, "Boss Chu, how much of your goods do you still have? What do you want to exchange for?" Chu Ning took a sip of the drink brought in by the other party, which tasted a bit strange and she didn't know what it was made of. After taking a sip, he never touched it again. Chapter 4. One can and one set. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chu Ning has already prepared his speech. Can't a bunch of food come out every time? I didn't bring a lot of things to the dungeon this time. You know, it's not easy to come in. However, I still have some industry outside, and the supply of goods is not a problem. As soon as everyone heard this, they immediately understood that Chu Ning's industry is the search team, right? Only in this way can we find such good things outside. In fact, even the coalition government has dedicated search teams to search for materials that were preserved before the major disaster. For a moment, the first brother's mind became lively. If we capture the source of goods, Mr. Chu, or take over the agency of the capital's number 3 underground city, his position here will rapidly rise. Chu Ning added, in addition to this package, I also have a large quantity hidden elsewhere in the dungeon. Let's try to make a deal first, and if we are happy, we can discuss long-term cooperation next time. Can you help me get an identity first, and then send someone to follow me to pick up the goods? As for what I want, do you have gold? For now, we will use gold trading. I will inform you in advance of what we need in the future. Is there a problem? After hearing this, the first brother was overjoyed and said, no problem. The price is also easy to negotiate. If Chu Ning only has such a batch of goods, there is really a possibility that he can seize them by force. But knowing that Chu Ning still has a source of goods outside, then we can't do this. Stop talking nonsense. Even Lu Qi, who had not left by the side, didn't pay attention and quickly helped Chu Ning apply for his identity certificate. In less than 3 minutes, Chu Ning became a legal resident of the capital's number 3 underground city. In order to facilitate Chu Ning's future entry and exit into the dungeon, Yaij even forged a metal plaque for Chu Ning and included a set of clothes as a gift. Of course, the source of this clothing may not be very clean, that's right. Why haven't you left yet? Yaij noticed Lu Qi and couldn't help but frown, feeling a bit unhappy. He doesn't want outsiders to see the deal with Mr. Chu. If it goes out, isn't everyone looking for Mr. Chu? In that case, it would be difficult for him to do business with Chu Ning alone. Therefore, the first brother winked at the 2 young horses. Does this posture mean killing and silencing? Lu Qi was startled. Just as he was about to speak up to defend, Chu Ning helped him out. Meeting is destined. I happen to be a newcomer and need some manpower. I think this young brother is good, so there's no need to worry about him revealing our transaction. To be honest, I have a lot of resources and can definitely collaborate with people from the management bureau. However, I think those people would be more greedy, which is why they came to you. As long as you're not too extreme, it's okay for me to only trade with you in this 3rd dungeon in the future. Of course, the prerequisite is that you can provide me with what I need, which is the foundation of cooperation. Chu Ning spoke up. Lu Qi beside him was pleasantly surprised. With such a thigh, wouldn't he not worry about not being able to eat canned food in the future? This is a pie falling from the sky. He was a shrewd young man and quickly walked up to Chu Ning, looking like a loyal little follower. Thank you very much for taking me in, boss. Yi Gu waved his hand and quickly laughed as he sent the horses passing by, saying, with the words of Boss Chu, I can rest assured. Don't worry, as long as it's in the dungeon, I can help you get it. There are many problems. Okay, let your people come with me. After seeing the goods, let's talk about how much gold. Damn it. I just like Mr. Chu, who is a cheerful person. Lao Lu, bring everyone together and follow Mr. Chu, said the first brother to one of the horses. Chu Ning brought this harvest and turned around to walk ahead. Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi followed behind Chu Ning left and right, and at the end were the people following his elder brother. He led everyone back to the location where he had traveled before. The branching corner of the corridor was unlit and pitch black. You guys wait here, Chu Ning said as she walked into the dark corner and moved all the cans out of the space in one breath. These cans are all packaged in wooden boxes made of simple wooden boards, stacked one by one. Outside, a light shines in. Chu Ning squinted under the stimulation of the light and shouted outside, let's all come in. Everyone was so surprised that they couldn't speak when they saw a bunch of wooden boxes filled with cans. Especially the subordinates of the first brother couldn't help but be excited. So many, can't the boss reward everyone with 1 or 2 cans? It seems that they also have a chance to taste it. So, one by one, they rubbed their hands and waited for Boss Chu to speak, and they immediately moved back. Leave 2 boxes and move the rest back. Tell your elder brother to deliver the gold to the old Chen next to me as soon as possible, and don't delay the next transaction, Chu Ning said to those people. Having milk is like having a mother. Seeing Chu Ning suddenly take out so many cans, those tall and sturdy guys are all respectful and dare not show any negligence. Boss Chu, don't worry, I'll definitely take it with me, said one of the big leaders. Then, he shouted to the group of people behind him, what are you waiting for? Move quickly, be careful. If you take it off, you'll blow your dog's head. Looking at only 2 boxes left and the rest being moved away, Lu Qi couldn't help but ask, Boss, won't brother refuse to accept the bill? Chu Ning smiled and said, if he only has such a limited perspective and vision, then let's just consider me paying the tuition fee. It doesn't matter. These 2 boxes will be moved to old Chen's place first. Later, go find the house. Are these 2 boxes enough? Chen Ziyuan quickly said, 1 box is enough. Canned meat is a luxury item, and 1 box is cheaper for them. Let's go then. Hurry up and get these things done today. The remaining box will be split between the two of you later. After hearing this, Lu Qi and Chen Ziyuan were extremely excited. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. A box of canned meat is equivalent to a huge fortune. They secretly made up their mind. Such a wealthy boss, they agreed to follow. Lu Qi was even thinking about whether he would resign from his job at the car repair unit and focus on handling things for Boss Chu. You know, this opportunity is very rare. Thinking of the snack at home, Lu Qi couldn't help but smile at the corner of his mouth. Carrying 2 cans, he returned to Chen Ziyuan's home and left 1 box behind. Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi took one of the boxes out to help Chu Ning find a suitable residence. As for Chu Ning, he took a walk around the dungeon to familiarize himself with the environment here. Chen Gu, what's the origin of Boss Chu? Lu Qi couldn't help but ask as he went out to do something. Chen Ziyuan shook his head slightly and reminded Lu Qi, Brother Lu, listen to me and don't inquire too much. Anyway, our boss is not a bad person, that's enough. Think about it, in this era, is there anyone more generous than our boss? Is everything else important? Sometimes, being a little confused is the best. After hearing this, Lu Qi was greatly inspired and extinguished his curiosity about Chu Ning. The efficiency of the two was good, and in less than 2 hours, they helped Chu Ning complete the house project. That is a suite with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, and it also comes with a student classroom-sized warehouse. The interior decoration is very good, and the door is a metal password door. Little thieves usually despair when they see this type of door. It can be said that the safety, comfort, and spaciousness all meet the requirements of Chu Ning. Chu Ning underestimated the value of a box of canned meat and found it unbelievable to be in such a house. And Lu Qi, he'll take that half box of canned food home first. Is that girl from Duo supposed to finish school? As soon as Lu Qi thought of the expression on the little greedy cat eating canned meat, he couldn't help but want to laugh. Chapter 5. Chu Ning's Plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Speaking of which, after receiving the batch of canned goods, Yaij heard his subordinates say that Mr. Chu had intercepted 2 boxes himself, and he couldn't listen at all. His attention was completely drawn to the pile of canned meat in front of him. He circled around the pile of canned goods, occasionally touching them with his hands, causing someone to open a box of canned pork. He couldn't help but eat another can, still unsatisfied. Gu dared not delay Chu Ning's transaction payment, so he directly took out half of his gold reserves and had someone deliver it to Chen Ziyuan. Remember to speak politely to me. If anyone makes Boss Chu unhappy, I will make him unhappy, Gu reminded me. Even in this era, gold remains a hard currency. Over the years, my elder brother has collected a lot, but it still exceeds 50 kilograms. Half, that's more than 25 kilograms. Suddenly, half of his body was taken away from his home, but Yaij didn't feel any pain. He understands very well that as long as he sells this batch of canned meat, he can double his earnings. The most important thing now is to give Boss Chu a good impression and establish a future cooperative relationship. To be honest, in this era, a pile of gold may not be as attractive as a pile of canned meat. Next, Brother Yi began to think about how to handle this batch of canned meat in order to maximize his own interests. And Lu Qi, happily carrying the half box of canned meat, happened to bump into his sister returning home from school. At this time, Duo had just entered junior high school. What is it? Do you also bring home the repair parts from your workplace? Duo, with short hair shoulder length and a cute round face, looked at her older brother carrying a wooden box in and couldn't help but ask curiously. Lu Qi looked contemptuous and said, What repair parts? These are delicious things. My boss just sent them out. Come over quickly. Let you have something good to eat, don't worry about that new product of dried earthworms. Speaking, he put down the box, took out a can of fish from inside, and opened it. Fishes as big as palms lay inside, their eyes wide-eyed. And Lu Qi, on the other hand, was not much better. His gaze fell entirely on the fish inside the can, and he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Household registration, brother, wow. This is fish. Duo was curious, excited, and wanted to eat. The name household registration was given by her to her older brother. In private, she either calls her household registration or her elder brother. For Duo, this kind of creature has only been seen in textbooks or on television, let alone eaten. After all, she lived in this dungeon from birth and grew up in it. Lu Qi knocked on this snack and said, "If you know it's fish, why don't you go get a pair of chopsticks?" Duo didn't think of anything else, quickly ran to get chopsticks, picked out a piece from the can, and ate it like a little hamster. A can of 2 fish, the remaining one, Lu Qi used his hands directly, and the 2 siblings started eating, too lazy to say a word. Until they finished eating, the 2 of them suppressed the idea of opening another can, and Duo finally asked, "Brother, where did you get this from? This thing is very valuable, isn't it?" She didn't believe that the car repair company would be so generous, giving out such luxury goods to workers, or half a box. "I said it was given by my boss. He just came to our dungeon and needs a few smart and capable people. Isn't that why he likes you and me? This boss is generous, and if you have an older brother in the future, you don't have to worry about not being able to eat canned meat. Didn't you see that the meat can heads traded between Mr. Chu and others are piled higher than me? I plan to resign from the car repair unit and focus on working for Mr. Chu. When Grandpa asks about this matter, you must help me speak, otherwise I won't want to eat any canned food in the future." Finally, Lu Qi pulled his sister into the water and helped him block thunder. Chu Ning received the gold sent by her elder brother, closed the door, and couldn't help but excitedly rub her hands, laughing so hard that she couldn't see her eyes. About 28 kilograms of gold, if taken back and resold, would cost at least $1 million, over 6 million RMB. That is to say, the profit he made from this smuggling trip is more than all his original savings. After sleeping for a few hours, Chu Ning found Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi and instructed them to do something while there was still 1 or 2 hours left. "The next day, I have to go out and do something busy, so you won't be able to find me. Starting tomorrow, you can help me find 2 types of people. One is powerful, but not a thug, and one's character must be acceptable. Another type is capable individuals with scientific knowledge. I know that before the major disaster, talents from various fields emerged. However, in the past 2 to 3 decades, many talents in various fields have been buried. You can help me find them out, there's no need to rush to contact them," confirmed the list Chu Ning said. In recent years, scientific development has been distorted. The technology related to the Wandering Earth project has developed rapidly, and the coalition government attaches great importance to it. However, other directions of science are almost ignored, leading to the stagnation or even regression of scientific development in other fields. In fact, one can also understand the struggles of the coalition government. For example, what kind of biological science is there on the Earth's surface besides humans? Is this scientific research still meaningful? So, Chu Ning plans to collect those talents and help her work, so that the results can be used back in her original world. However, this kind of matter cannot be rushed. Gathering so many people at once will definitely attract the attention of the Management Bureau. In addition, he also has a plan, which is to form an adventure team, also known as the Legendary Search Team, to search outside for some useful materials. In the outside world, there must still be a lot of good things left behind. Perhaps this Wandering Earth world person may not be interested, but bringing it back to the real world is different. Besides, if Chu Ning wants to develop his own power in this world and facilitate future actions, he will definitely need a lot of resources. He can't bring everything from the real world, can he? His carrying space is limited. Although Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi don't know what the boss is thinking, neither of them wants to lose their current job. Understood. We'll go do this in a moment. Boss, do you have any other instructions? Chen Ziyuan was very sensible and didn't ask for any further reasons. And Lu Qi, who had been awakened by Chen Ziyuan, also didn't ask anything. Anyway, as long as it's orders from the boss, they just do it, not to let them kill or set fire, or do anything outrageous. Chen Ziyuan knew only 3 or 2 intellectuals mentioned by the boss, and one of them lived a miserable life. That person's own knowledge has no place to be used in this era, and they work hard but lack strength, constantly tinkering with useless things. Let's do this for now. Sending away 2 attendants, Chu Ning stayed in her own house, quietly waiting to return to the real world, while also considering what would be better to bring over next time. Chapter 6. Concept of Trading Companies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After returning, Chu Ning immediately went to transfer the more than 20 kilograms of gold. At present, common gold acquisitions on the market mainly include banks, gold shops, personal gold shops, pawn shops, etc. Among them, banks and gold shops are better choices. In the country where Chu Ning is located, one of the poorest countries in Southeast Asia, there are not many gold shops to choose from, and they are not acquaintances, so prices are usually suppressed. So, Chu Ning chose a bank, which was safer and faster to monetize. He went to an international bank. There are not 2 domestic banks in East Timor, and their reputation is not good. The bank staff became polite and enthusiastic when they heard that he was here to sell gold. Wherever you go, gold is always popular. Sir, our bank collects gold at a price that varies according to the international gold price. Generally speaking, it is about $1 lower than the international gold price. Is that acceptable? Of course, another thing to consider is the quality of gold. The higher the purity, the higher the price a manager personally receives. It's true that Chu Ning brought a lot of gold. Who would carry 20.30 kilograms of gold everywhere? Chu Ning took a sip of the coffee brought by the beautiful female staff member and nodded, saying, Then quickly identify the color. I'm in a hurry. Okay. Sir, please sign this quality appraisal agreement first, and we will handle it for you now. To determine the quality, it is necessary to melt the gold on the spot, so usually an agreement needs to be signed before the person dares to do so. Half an hour later, the quality of this batch of gold was determined, and both parties agreed to trade at $51 per gram. The total amount of gold was 27,586 grams, with a transaction of over $1.4 million. Because Chu Ning uses this bank card, it is very convenient to directly transfer it into his card. Sir, take your time and welcome to visit again. The business manager remained enthusiastic. After a delicious meal at a Chinese restaurant, Chu Ning began to contemplate the next steps. He felt it necessary to rent a warehouse and recruit some people to help. In the future, he needs to bring something to the wandering earth, just give a command, and don't have to do everything himself. A warehouse is easy to manage. In this country, buying a warehouse is not difficult. As long as you have US dollars, you can buy things beyond your imagination. Who can I ask for help with management? Believe it. Local people, he definitely doesn't consider it. The indigenous people of this country are not particularly friendly towards Chinese people like him, they envy the wealth of Chinese people. Once there is a riot, the first to suffer will definitely be Chinese shops. Soon, Chu Ning thought of a good candidate. Chu Ning came to a house not far from her home and knocked on the door. A woman came out, wearing an apron as if cooking and eating. The other party was a bit surprised when they saw Chu Ning and said, "Xiao Ning. Have you eaten yet? Come in quickly. Auntie, is Uncle Zhang at home?" "Here. I just got back from looking for a job." Huang Qian was indeed surprised. Since her factory closed down a few months ago, there have been fewer people coming and going to her house. This Chu Ning used to rarely hang out with these Chinese people. He was a homebody and didn't go out much, relying solely on the legacy left by his ancestors. Therefore, seeing Chu Ning come to his door, I was somewhat surprised and even thought to myself, wouldn't my husband also borrow money from him? Coming to collect debts. After walking in, Chu Ning saw that the aunt was going to add dishes and quickly stopped him, saying, "Auntie, I just had something to eat, so there's no need to work. I came to disturb you today, mainly to discuss something with Uncle Zhang." Zhang Xiangbei, who was organizing documents, looked up at Chu Ning. "Xiao Ning, what's up?" "Now, Uncle Zhang and the factory has closed down, and there may be limited help we can offer you," Zhang Xiangbei couldn't help but say. This is already a way to save face for oneself. In fact, his family is in dire straits, so how can they care about helping others? On the way here, Chu Ning had already come up with a speech. "Uncle Zhang, I've been seriously considering it lately and can't continue to be decadent, otherwise all the gold mountains will be eaten up. So, I plan to open a trading company and do some business. But I'm not familiar with this area, so I'm looking for Uncle Zhang's help," Chu Ning confessed. Seeing Chu Ning's enlightenment, Zhang Xiangbei and his wife were still happy for him, but when they heard that Chu Ning wanted to do trade, their expressions changed a bit. Trade? With this country's economic level, doing trade is too risky. Zhang Xiangbei reminded Chu Ning. In fact, he doesn't know how much wealth Chu Ning has, so he can't give Chu Ning any advice. Chu Ning shook her head and insisted, "Uncle Zhang, I know what you're worried about. I know a few clients, and orders are long-term orders. What you need to do is help me create the company structure and then be responsible for procurement. Don't worry about anything else." Zhang Xiangbei was taken aback and said, "There are orders before the company is established. However, this is their secret, and Zhang Xiangbei is not easy to inquire." He just reminded, "Xiao Ning, be careful. There are many scammers in this society. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they gave me all the money, so what am I worried about? However, their requirements are a bit strange, and the products cannot have trademarks, production dates, and so on." Chu Ning revealed slightly. Zhang Xiangbei is indeed someone who has done business before, and upon hearing this, he immediately understood. He added to his mind, "It's possible that it's outsourcing processing, finding a book garden at www.zhaoshuyuan.com, and then pasting his own trademark. This kind of thing is not uncommon. Although it's a bit strange, why did the other party find Chu Ning instead of the contract factory? In theory, the cost of doing so would be lower, but Zhang Xiangbei feels that it is not harmful to Chu Ning. As Chu Ning said earlier, after giving all the money, what else can the other party deceive you? Uncle Zhang, since you haven't found a job yet, come and help me. The annual salary is $100,000, and you will also have some shares in the company. Let's discuss the details later. How about that?" After hearing this, Zhang Xiangbei and his wife looked at each other and were very moved. In this country, an annual salary of $100,000 is definitely a super high income. You should know that the per capita GDP here is only a few $100s. Without a doubt. Chu Ning found them, which can be considered as giving his family a way out. Today, Zhang Xiangbei waited in line for 2 hours for a job with a monthly salary of less than $2,000, but was eventually rejected. "Okay, let's plan it out." Speaking of this, Zhang Xiangbei immediately became enthusiastic. His wife Huang Qian quickly served the food and asked Chu Ning and the others to chat while eating. She was vaguely excited. During this period, her family went bankrupt and was in such a difficult situation to speak of. Saying she wasn't sad was self-deception. Who wouldn't want to live a life of prosperity? Now, Chu Ning has brought hope to their family and is extremely grateful in her heart. Zhang Xiangbei didn't eat much and was discussing the establishment of the company throughout the process. Professionals are different, Chu Ning can rest assured. It is speculated that Zhang Xiangbei's family may be in dire straits now, so he immediately advanced $100,000 to him. And for the company's initial capital, Chu Ning allocated $1.5 million. Having money is easy to handle. Zhang Xiangbei hurriedly took a few bites of food and couldn't wait to go out to do things. Chapter 7. Upgrading and Eating Roast Sheep. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In just half a day, Zhang Xiangbei registered the company, rented a secret warehouse, contacted the manufacturer of canned meat, urgently placed an order, and asked them to quickly transport a batch of products without trademark information. The manufacturer was surprised to receive such an order. But with business, it's impossible to give up. Are trademarks and the like important? As long as I have money to earn, it's not a problem for me to label it as Ultraman only. Not only canned goods, but also various grains that can be stored for a long time are all within Zhang Xiangbei's procurement scope. He spilled $500,000 to $600,000 in one breath. However, it will take some time for the other goods to be transported to the warehouse. At this speed, Chu Ning was amazed. Indeed, professional matters still need to be entrusted to professionals. In this way, when he returns here, he only needs to say something to Zhang Xiangbei, and he can freely catch up on his sleep. Once again, Chu Ning still carried a can and a small amount of other things. Returning to the room in the Wandering Earth dungeon, Chu Ning first transferred everything in the space to the attached warehouse. This warehouse is quite good, and it also has the function of refrigeration. As soon as I took out everything, the information on my wrist changed and 3 green words flickered. Upgradable. This upgrade is a bit inexplicable. Chu Ning couldn't figure it out at all. It's not as intelligent as other people's systems at all. His system is like a broken one, with only one program running, and cutting corners is very serious. Since we can upgrade, what are we waiting for? Chu Ning silently recited in her heart. Upgrade. However, there was no response at all, and the light curtain on the wrist still flickered with the words, upgradable. Chu Ning looked bewildered and couldn't help but touch the flickering 3 words with her other hand. This time, the 3 words, upgradable, have finally become upgrading. Okay. This is indeed not a system. Without a system, it is so foolish and lacking that it still stays in the era of touch screens. Who developed this? I can't keep up with the times at all. In no time, the upgrade is complete. Chu Ning found that at her wrist, there was no longer just a lonely countdown, but a split into 2 parts. One side of it was still a countdown, but it wasn't 1 day, it became 3 days. On the other side, there are only 2 things similar to buttons, one is, time travel, gray, the other is, return, which is illuminated. Chu Ning guessed that the stay time had changed from 1 day to 3 days. However, within these 3 days, one can choose to return to the real world at any time. Get it? A person without some understanding ability can't get this golden finger without being tricked. Is this a developer's prank? In addition, the original 4 cubic meters of space have been reduced to 16 cubic meters. In the future, the number of items that can be carried will greatly increase, which is good news. After understanding these, Chu Ning summoned Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi to gather at his place. Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi also brought a strong man, standing next to him, only up to his chest. It seems that they are just over 2 meters away. Boss, his nickname is Tai Nyo. Because he eats a lot, no one wants to work for him and wants to join you, boss, Chen Ziyuan introduced. Iron Bull spoke with a buzzing voice, please take it in, boss. As long as you can fill Iron Bull's stomach, Iron Bull's life will be yours. He was born to grow faster than others. In elementary school, he was as tall as an adult because he ate too much and others were afraid of him. Iron Bull has been to some units to work, but that income is not enough to fill his stomach, so he reluctantly quit. How about your strength? Chu Ning asked curiously. If it's just a superficial product, it can only scare people, it's not very useful. Lu Qi also helped to speak. Iron Bull brother is very powerful. He can punch through a single brick wall with just one punch. After discussing with Chen, I believe Iron Bull brother can be the boss's guard, bodyguard, and so on. Alright, you stay with Iron Bull and follow me in the future. Buy the house next to you and let Iron Bull live inside. If I have to go out, I will bring Iron Bull with me. Just as she finished speaking, Chu Ning thought for a moment and changed her tone. I see that the other rooms in this corridor don't seem to be occupied yet. Let's do this. Buy all the rooms here, and you can also move over. Our people will live here in the future. If you had to look for someone yesterday, you wouldn't have found only Iron Bull, would you? Chen Ziyuan quickly replied, of course not only. We have identified more than 10 strong men who can do heavy work. We have also paid attention to several of the intellectuals you want, boss. However, without your instructions, we have not contacted them for the time being. In fact, the most important thing is that they don't have food in their hands, so naturally they don't have much confidence to go find people. Tiniu, it was Chen Ziyuan who attracted him with a can. So, they must wait for Chu Ning to come back before they dare to recruit people. At this moment, Iron Bull's stomach rang out again in frustration. Chu Ning couldn't help but laugh and cry, then let's eat first. You can bring your family over and let's have something else today. Find Tai Nyo from Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com and come with me to roast lamb. When Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi heard the word roasted lamb, their eyes widened and they immediately ran back to bring their family over. Lu Qi even ran to his sister's classroom where she was studying and made up a reason for something wrong at home to the homeroom teacher, and left the classroom with Duo. Grandpa's accident. Duo was a bit panicked. What can happen to Grandpa? I don't need this reason, can I bring you out? Let's go, brother will take you to eat delicious food. Roast lamb, haven't you tried it? Lu Qi boasted proudly. Okay. Sheep, this kind of creature, can only be seen in textbooks. Let's go, let's go. Duo, who was already not interested in learning, was so greedy that her mouth was about to water. Chen Ziyuan was more reliable and only brought his wife with him. His daughter was at school and did not disturb him. Iron Bull followed behind Chu Ning and saw the pile of canned goods in the warehouse, feeling relieved. It seems that in the future, following the boss really doesn't require hunger. Especially when the boss opens a freezer and asks him to pick up a whole processed sheep from inside, Iron Bull's stomach becomes even more restless. This is specially brought by Chu Ning, and there are even fresh beef legs and so on. Last time, Chu Ning brought the peeled sheep over just because she saw a huge oven in this house. The food here is really terrible. Chu Ning keeps a distance from dried earthworms, although it sounds very nutritious. You can eat the canned food you bring, but you can't always eat canned food, can you? When Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi brought their family over, the roasted lamb in the oven was dripping oil and emitting the aroma of roasted meat. Duo was very restrained and kept looking at the mysterious boss of her brother with her eyes. Canned meat can still be understood, but fresh lamb is too difficult to handle. Chapter 8. Convening People and Horses. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Pigs, cows, and sheep are actually found in dungeons, but the quantity of breeding is very small, and it is almost impossible for ordinary people to eat them. You know, these people can only eat dumplings twice a year. Even eating dumplings is a luxury, let alone other meats. Therefore, the shock in the hearts of Chen Ziyuan and others when they saw Boss Chu pulling out a whole sheep and rewarding everyone was indescribable. Chen Ziyuan's wife, whom Chu Ning had seen before, nodded slightly as a sign of greeting. Then, looking at the little girl with a round face, this is the girl in the movie who calls for everyone to unite. Call out to Boss Chu quickly, Lu Qi quickly reminded his sister. Chu Ning smiled and waved her hand, you should do things for me and call me boss, but she's not my employee. Just call me Brother Chu. Duo climbed along the pole and said, hello, Brother Chu. She let go of her worries and found that the young boss Chu was really as approachable and a good person as her brother had said. Let's all sit down. Lao Chen, why didn't your girl bring her over? Chu Ning asked. She still has to go to school, Chen Ziyuan explained. Chu Ning realized that Duo seemed to be reading too, right? Get it. He thought of the plot in the movie, it must be Lu Qi, a bastard who played the demon. Leave some for her later and bring it back when Lao Chen goes back. After speaking, Chu Ning dug out a box of sauce and applied it to the roasted lamb, making the aroma even stronger. Except for Chu Ning, everyone else couldn't help but swallow saliva. Old Chen, gather the people who are optimistic about me later. Work here and distribute grain as wages. Can you help me set a standard and try to be as generous as possible with my own people? Of course, people from different jobs will also receive different rewards. In the future, I plan to form a search team to work outside, because they need to take risks and their income should be twice as high. As for the intellectuals you are looking for, they are staying in the dungeon to help me with research, just pay them according to the standard salary. Of course, if they develop significant achievements, there will be certain rewards. From now on, Lao Chen, please help me manage this aspect. Chu Ning spread sauce on the lamb while talking to him. Boss, what about me? Can I join the search team? Lu Qi quickly asked. He has long been looking forward to the outside world, and he must strive for such an opportunity. Are you okay? It seems like you don't have any experience working outside, so think carefully first. The search team isn't that fast and needs to be equipped with relevant equipment, such as vehicles, detectors, drones, etc. These equipment will be discussed with that senior brother next time. Chu Ning had already planned it. Boss, I have no problem. Although I don't have any experience going outside, I can drive. Chu Ning glanced at Lu Qi, and in the movie, this guy's so-called ability to drive is theoretical. However, if you practice a few times, becoming a driver is also possible. Moreover, his grandfather Han Xiang is a senior pilot, and his father Lu Peiqiang is a skilled worker at the International Navigation Station. No matter which factor, it's all the reason why Chu Ning is trying to win this guy over. Chen Ziyuan was worried, as for the vehicles, I'm afraid even my elder brother won't be able to get them. They are public property of the coalition government and are strictly controlled. If this is not possible, then cooperating with him would not be of great significance. Don't underestimate this kind of person, they may have channels, but the code may be a bit high. Chu Ning doesn't think that the first brother is a simple person who can even handle legal identities. If there is no network connection, he definitely doesn't believe it. After chatting for a while, roasted whole lamb came out of the oven and began to eat one by one. Chu Ning is fine, she stopped after eating 7 or 8% full. A sheep, 1/3 of which fell into the belly of an iron ox, and the others were also fed. A foodie like Duo, the second one who can eat is her. It feels like skipping classes and being scolded is worth it. Finally, Chu Ning took out a few cans of cola from the refrigerator. Duo was reluctant to drink and put it in her backpack, intending to take it to school to show off. Chen Ziyuan's wife, on the other hand, brought back the portion of roasted lamb and no longer disturbed the men's work. Then, Lu Qi went to call over the person he had seen yesterday. Chen Ziyuan, on the other hand, took Tai Nyo out and went to the accommodation management office. He also had Tai Nyo push 20 boxes of canned goods and planned to buy all the houses in this corridor. There was a canned meat opening the way, and Chen Ziyuan's affairs went smoothly. At the accommodation management office, as soon as they saw those 20 boxes of canned meat, they immediately went through the procedures. Anyway, there are still many vacant underground houses like this, and it's not difficult to increase them. Just continue digging and expanding them. Lu Qi also quickly brought those people over, 12 strong men, all in their 30s and 40s, with well-developed muscles. Their character, which Chen Ziyuan also knows, cannot be said to be very good, but they are also passable, not the kind of morally corrupt people. Did Xiao Lu tell you to come? Chu Ning asked. One of the more daring people nodded and said, I've told you, there's a possibility of going on an adventure outside at zhaozhuan.com. As long as the reward is sufficient, we don't mind. Chu Ning stared at him for a moment and said, What's your name? Tell me about your experience. My name is Zhao Jun. I used to serve in the army for a period of time, but later stepped down after offending someone. Zhao Jun briefly explained his experience. Even confessed to offending important people. If Chu Ning is afraid, he can only look for others. Don't be fooled by the current era of human escape, where humanity is unprecedentedly united, but as long as there are people, there will be rivers, and factions will be formed. Within the coalition government, there are also disputes, not iron plates. Great. Zhao Jun, you have experience fighting outside. From now on, you are the leader of this team and only responsible to me. As for the compensation, you can rest assured that we will settle it with you at the highest level. What you need to do now is to figure out what equipment you need, list it out, and I will do my best to help you complete it. Our search targets outside are mainly some pre-disaster big cities. In big cities, I'll take out everything that has value, move small items back to the underground, and gather large items in one place. Chu Ning said. Boss, Lu Qi was a bit anxious. Chu Ning could only add, take this kid with you and don't let him take risks. He knows how to drive. After speaking, Chu Ning pulled out 2 cans and divided each of the 10 or so people into 10 cans, completely bribing the group of men. Zhao Jun immediately took the others to the table next to him for a meeting and made a plan. This makes the few scientific researchers next to them very envious. They have knowledge, but it is no longer useful in this era, and the coalition government does not attach importance to it. Chapter 9. Excellent people in various fields. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Zhou Chuandao is a person in his 50s, quickly entering old age. Before the Earth stopped rotating, he was a respected designer of an aircraft carrier. Now, aircraft carriers have long lost their function, and all the oceans on Earth have turned into glaciers, leaving people like him with no place to play. Those who are more powerful than him can only switch careers and do something else. This time, he was actually very nervous when he was called in. Because he felt that the knowledge in his stomach seemed to be of little use to others. In this current environment, even if you can handle an aircraft carrier by hand, what's the use? But he really needs a job. At the time of the draw, his family was relatively lucky, and he and his son were drawn and survived. And now, my son has become a family, has children, and is still a quadruplet. This was originally a good thing, but the pressure from the family came with it. When the Chu boss in front of him asked what he used to do, old Zhou hesitated and felt a bit embarrassed to speak up, afraid that if he said he was working on an aircraft carrier, he would be kicked out immediately. Why hesitate? Answer whatever the boss asks you, Lu Qi couldn't help but urge. Zhou Chuandao gritted his teeth and knew that such a thing could not be concealed. Before coming to the dungeon, I was designing an aircraft carrier. After speaking, he looked nervously at Chu Ning. Chu Ning was taken aback. An aircraft carrier. Cowherd. In the real world, there are extremely limited countries that can manufacture aircraft carriers, and the ocean is temporarily dominated by the Americans. The manpower, material resources, and financial resources required to manufacture an aircraft carrier are absolutely astronomical. Even if we provide the design drawings for the Chu Ning aircraft carrier, he is currently unable to manufacture it. And, should he manufacture aircraft carriers in the real world and sell them all over the world? Chu Ning fell into a moment of contemplation and thought for a while. Others thought he was thinking about how to refuse Zhou Chuandao. After all, aircraft carriers are of no use in this era or for a long time in the future. The most nervous one is undoubtedly Zhou Chuandao, who seems to be a criminal waiting for sentencing. Chu Ning regained her senses and couldn't help but laugh at everyone's expressions, saying, "Don't be nervous. Since we found you, there's no reason to drive everyone away. Zhou Lao, let's do this. What about you? Let's start with the most primitive conventional powered aircraft carriers and create their generation by generation design drawings. Although it may not be useful to build an aircraft carrier now, it is still a crystallization of human intelligence, and it is a pity to lose it. If you sort them out completely and neatly, I'll consider them a collection." As soon as the words fell, Zhou Chuandao let out a heavy breath. "Thank you very much, Boss Chu." Zhou Chuandao understood that the aircraft carrier was indeed of no use. What they said about collecting is just not to embarrass him and leave in a disheveled manner. Perhaps for Boss Chu, it doesn't matter if he raises a few idle people. But for his family, that is a huge favor, which should be remembered. Others breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Their strengths are not much different from those of Lao Zhou, they have all been eliminated by the times. "Boss Chu, I work in lithography machines," said a man in his 40s. Chu Ning frowned and said, "A lithography machine? The kind that makes chips?" "Yes. You know, although we also need chips now, the market is very small. There used to be a lot of talent and competition in this field, so." He felt a bit embarrassed to continue with the rest of the conversation. In summary, it is not that this era does not require his skills, but rather that his abilities cannot keep up and he has been eliminated. If you were to make a lithography machine, what level of chips could you produce? Chu Ning asked. Here, Wang Chang's technology may be outdated, but in Chu Ning's world, it's not necessarily the case. The technology of chips is still quite important. 3 nanometers, Wang Chang answered truthfully. Chu Ning was slightly surprised in his heart. In his world, the most advanced chips are only 5 nanometers, and achieving mass production is only a wait.and.c state. If he could create a 3 nanometers chip, wouldn't he be leading the way? From now on, you can start making the lithography machine. If you need any materials, report to Chen Ziyuan and he will find them for you. In terms of manpower, you can find them yourself. Chu Ning is more urgent about the lithography machine, which can be used immediately in the real world. Okay. Those who have eliminated this technology will need it, while others will be more relaxed. Boss, I do. Others reported their majors, one after another. Without exception, Chu Ning has taken them in. Some technical talents may not be needed now, but what about the future? Anyway, it's just about raising a few more people and distributing a few pounds of rice every day. Chen Ziyuan returned with Iron Bull, and Chu Ning has already reached an agreement. Boss, all the house space in this corridor belongs to us now. How can we arrange it? Chen Ziyuan asked. Chu Ning led everyone out of their house and came to the middle of the corridor. He pointed to the left and said, "The space on this side is reserved for the search team and their families to live in. You can register and arrange accommodation for them later. Of course, those who are unwilling to move in should not be forced. These rooms on the right are reserved for researchers. Small houses are arranged for their accommodation, while large spaces are used for their offices, laboratories, and so on." Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. At the same time, Chu Ning also emphasized that Wang Chang should prioritize providing him with the materials and supplies necessary for manufacturing lithography machines. Understood. Chen Ziyuan is a good employee with strong execution ability. He doesn't know why, and he will conscientiously implement any orders given by his boss. This kind of person is very suitable for being a butler. Alright, let's distribute some food to everyone first and arrange for them to move in. If we need anything later, let's go find that elder brother, Chu Ning said. Zhou Chuandao and others each received 10 cans of canned food, which can be considered as a settlement allowance for everyone. Boss, it's probably difficult to exchange so many supplies with Brother Yi for this little can. Chen Ziyuan couldn't help but say as he looked at the remaining cans in the warehouse. You don't have to worry, other grains are being transported in. In a moment, Chu Ning is preparing to return to the real world. With 16 cubic meters of space, she can bring many things over at once. Upon hearing the boss's words, Chen Ziyuan quickly went to do other things. Everyone can guess that the boss must have his own secret team, and he doesn't want to inquire so much. Zhao Jun and his team have already discussed and listed a large number of equipment to give to Chen Ziyuan. The most exciting thing is undoubtedly Lu Qi, who feels that the day of going out to see the world is right in front of him. That is something he has been looking forward to for a long time. As for Grandpa's side, Duo should be able to help him and not very worried. After others pulled out Chu Ning's house, he chose to return and instantly returned to his original world. He observed the light screen information on his wrist again, and the return button had turned gray, while the travel button had become brighter. And on the countdown side, it is also reset to 3 days. As expected, he withdrew as he had guessed. Chapter 10. Red Wine. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After returning, Chu Ning did not disturb Zhang Xiangbei and started to fill the space with food by herself. Fortunately, as long as he touches an object with his hand, it will transfer into the space without much effort. Here in the warehouse, most of the warehouses have already been stacked. There are rice, corn, potatoes, flour, instant noodles, canned goods, ham, red wine, etc. Just in the past half day, Zhang Xiangbei has brought so much things. In fact, since Chu Ning approached him and expressed that they had been doing something together, Zhang Xiangbei has not taken much rest and has been constantly contacting manufacturers. You should know that not every manufacturer is willing to produce goods without trademark or other information, especially those that want to create a brand, and they will not pay attention to it. Filled with 16 cubic meters of space, Chu Ning was about to cross over when she received a call from Zhang Xiangbei. Uncle Zhang, what's up? Zhang Xiangbei's helpless voice came from his phone. This country is too poor, and some things have not been produced yet. So, in the coming period, I plan to go abroad, even go back to our country to find manufacturers, and let you know in advance. Chu Ning naturally understands that East Timor is indeed a country with a shortage of resources. And it's not surprising that Zhang Xiangbei wants to go to China to find manufacturers, as Chinese manufacturing is well known worldwide for its good quality and affordable prices. Alright, then go ahead. Hurry up, the goods in the warehouse will be cleared soon, and the customer will be pressing for it, Chu Ning reminded. Zhang Xiangbei was slightly surprised upon hearing this, as it seemed that Chu Ning had indeed found a major client. As a result, he became even more confident. After hanging up the phone, Chu Ning immediately crossed the border, while Zhang Xiangbei immediately completed the procedures for going abroad and headed straight to China. I originally planned to conduct research and investigation in neighboring countries, but as Chu Ning said, I don't have time. Chu Ning discovered a system vulnerability where there were no restrictions on leaving within 3 days. For example, if he wants to do something in the world of Wandering Earth, he will definitely not be able to complete it within 3 days. He could have made a comeback midway and then crossed over again, with time reset. Anyway, traveling through 2 worlds doesn't take too much time. After discovering this vulnerability, Chu Ning was even more certain that it was a flawed system, at the level of elementary school students, and not rigorous at all. However, it is precisely because of this that Chu Ning has a loophole to exploit. For him, this is actually a good thing, making it easier for him to do things. Chu Ning worked as a porter back and forth several times, filling 70% of the warehouse here before finally stopping. Half a day has passed, so Chu Ning decided to take a nap. A few hours later, I woke up and went to find Chen Ziyuan. At this point, everyone's accommodation has been fully arranged, even Chen Ziyuan and Lu Qi have moved over. Nevertheless, most of the houses in this corridor are still empty. It's all done, Chen Ziyuan reported to Chu Ninghui. Chu Ning walked around and looked around, then nodded slightly and said, You did a good job. After finishing speaking, Chu Ning walked into an empty hall with an area of 200 to 300 square meters. Then she said, Bring in some tables and chairs and turn this place into a cafeteria. In the future, it will be exclusively for our people to eat. You can recruit a few more women who can cook, and from tonight on, we will provide 3 free meals for everyone. Let's consider it a benefit for the employees. Beside him, Chen Ziyuan was stunned and stopped. Old boss, do this. Chu Ning interrupted him and said, Don't worry. We have enough food to manage, so you don't have to worry. Don't hide those cans in your house and be reluctant to eat them. You will find that food will become cheap in the future. This is also a change that Chu Ning hopes to bring, to change the food problem of the wandering humans on Earth. Upon hearing the boss's confident words, Chen Ziyuan suddenly understood that his own boss must have mastered the food he scrutinized in order to have the courage to speak such arrogant words. Are you ready with the list of supplies everyone needs? Leave it to me. I'll go talk to that guy. Your current task is to take care of this cafeteria and have our people eat as soon as possible. In the future, I will leave the logistical matters to you for handling, Chu Ning said again. Chen Ziyuan quickly handed over the list of materials to Chu Ning, and then went to arrange for the cafeteria. Chu Ning took Iron Bull to find his elder brother. At this moment, the eldest brother can be said to be proud of himself, holding a large number of canned meat in his hand and asking exorbitant prices. Just a third of it was sold, and I doubled it to make a profit. Therefore, Yaij became even more determined to cooperate with Chu Ning, and anyone who dared to intervene would be a provocation to him. Boss Chu is here. Please. Upon hearing the report from his subordinates, Yi Gu immediately jumped up from his chair and walked out in person. Outside, he even kicked the horse guarding the door and said, Blind your dog's eye, even Boss Chu dares to stop you. If something like this happens again next time, I'll throw you outside and freeze you into an popsicle. Immediately, he changed his face and smiled at Chu Ning, saying, Boss Chu, my subordinates are not sensible. Don't take it amiss. Please come inside, please come inside. Chu Ning waved her hand and smiled, Rules. Everyone must abide by them. When you come here, follow your rules. But when you come to my side, can you still break my rules? Mutual respect is very important. Yi Gudun laughed even happier and said, Boss Chu is still sensible, let's go. Let's talk inside. As soon as she sat down, 2 beautiful women came in carrying drinks. Chu Ning quickly said, Brother, I brought a bottle of good food over here. Today we'll have this. After speaking, I opened a box that I brought over and found a bottle of red wine inside. Yaij looked at it and was pleasantly surprised. Oh. Boss Chu, you can actually get this kind of good thing. You have a vast imagination. Although wine is in short supply in this era, there are still some, but most of them are baijiu made from grain, and red wine made from grapes is too rare. Brother Yi quickly asked someone to take out the set of wine glasses he cherished, wiped them again and again, and then carefully poured 2 glasses. After taking a sip and savoring it for more than 10 or 20 seconds, Yaij sighed and said, The last time I drank this kind of wine was more than 10 years ago, when Mr. Chu laughed at me. Chu Ning smiled and said, Is that right? Coincidentally, I have a batch of red wine on hand. Is your brother interested? Brother Yi suddenly looked up at Chu Ning and said, Boss Chu, are you serious? What do you want? Or gold? This type of red wine is even more luxurious than canned goods, and is almost always accessible to former tycoons, officials, and other high-level personnel, and the quantity is extremely limited. After all, drinking one bottle reduces one bottle. Chu Ning handed over a list and said, "First, take a look at what's on it. Can you get me hands on it? If you can, we can discuss it later. Otherwise, I'll have to take the risk of contacting the people from the management bureau."